Let's dive into a really powerful theological idea today, drawing from a sermon by Elder Michael Tolliver. We're talking about justification. We're going to explore what it really means to be justified, and then unpack the three incredible blessings that are said to flow right from it. So this big word justification, what is it really? Well, think of it as a legal term, something you'd hear in a courtroom, but there's a huge difference here. See, in a human court, you might be found not guilty. But in this context, justification goes way beyond that. It's not just that you're acquitted. It's a declaration that you are now positively righteous. I love how this quote just nails it. It gives you this image of a gavel coming down, an immediate and final verdict. The key thing to get is that it's not a process, and it's not a feeling. It's a one-time legal declaration, and it's all based on what someone else did, not us. So with that as our foundation, what comes next? Well, the first and probably most foundational blessing of being justified is this. You get peace with God. And we're not just talking about a calm feeling inside, like tranquility. This is something much, much bigger. It's objective. Now, to really appreciate why this peace is such a huge deal, you have to understand the problem it's solving. The sermon argues that, from a biblical perspective, our default setting isn't neutral. It's actually described as a state of active hostility. Basically a state of war, which naturally puts us under divine judgment. And here's where you see the incredible transformation that justification is said to bring. It just completely flips your legal standing before God. You go from enemy to friend, from hostile to reconciled. The war is over. It's a done deal. And that's an objective peace. Think of it like a signed treaty, not some temporary ceasefire that depends on how you're feeling that day. So, the war is over. That's blessing number one. But justification does more than just stop the fighting. The second blessing is all about access, specifically access to God's grace. It's like it doesn't just call a truce, it swings open a door right into the throne room. This idea of access is just so powerful. The sermon describes it as being personally walked right into the presence of royalty. You're not trying to sneak in or hoping you'll get an audience. You have a standing invitation. You actually belong there. And to make this really concrete, the sermon uses this great historical story. So there's this wounded soldier who desperately needs to see President Lincoln. But of course, the guards stop him. He has no rank, no credentials, no access. But then Lincoln's young son, Tad, finds the soldier, takes him by the hand, and leads him straight past all the guards and right into the president's office. The analogy is just so clear, right? The son grants an access the soldier could never have earned himself. And this access isn't a one-time pass. The source describes it as gaining a permanent standing. It's like having solid footing in a brand new kingdom. You don't have to keep trying to earn your welcome. You now belong in this place of grace, with full access to what the Bible calls the unfathomable riches of Christ. And that brings us to the third and final blessing, which is all about the future. So after you get peace in the present and access to grace, justification also gives you the hope of glory. But let's be honest, that word hope can be a little weak, can't it? In our everyday language, we use it for things we aren't sure about. I hope I win the lottery. So it's a good question to ask, what does the sermon actually mean by biblical hope? And the difference is absolutely huge. Our everyday hope is basically just wishful thinking. But biblical hope, as it's described here, is something else entirely. It's presented as a certainty that's just waiting to happen. It's not a wish, it's a confident expectation, because it's based on what's seen as a guaranteed promise. The sermon paints such a vivid picture to help us feel this. Imagine a soldier. He's miserable, he's in a cold, muddy foxhole, and then he gets the news. He's going home, to a warm shower, clean clothes, a feast. He doesn't just hope he's going home, he knows he is. That's the kind of joyful certainty this hope provides, this knowledge that no matter what's happening right now, a glorious future is already locked in. So we have these three incredible blessings: peace, access, and hope. But this whole thing really hinges on one central question, right? How does a person even get them? What's the key that unlocks the state of justification in the first place? While the sermon is super clear about what doesn't work, this peace with God isn't something you achieve through your own merits, or by being a really good person, or by performing religious duties, or even by being incredibly sincere. None of that stuff can bridge the gap. So after ruling all of that out, the sermon gives the answer with this beautiful, stark simplicity. The key that unlocks justification and all of its blessings is singular. It's through Christ alone. The whole point is that it's not something you can earn. It's a gift that you receive. So, all of this brings us to the final takeaway question. The sermon lays out this whole framework for an objective peace, an unconditional access, and a certain hope. And the thought it leaves us with is this: what changes when peace and hope are seen not as feelings you have to achieve, but as a legal status you've already received? That's really the heart of justification.